Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about Street Candy's second film that they brought into existence, and that is Street Candy MTN 100. So stick around if you want to learn all the best tips and tricks for how to get the most out of this emulsion. Quick one before we get started. If you like film photography and want to see more videos like this one, film reviews, tips and tricks, that kind of thing, then please do make sure you're subscribed to our channel and notifications are turned on. Thank you so much. So as I've mentioned, MTN 100 is the second film from the Street Candy brand. Street Candy is the brainchild of Vincent Machete, who has been working in the film community for many years. His journey began with a blog that was I think it was called 1 Year with Film Only, where as a photographer he was challenging himself to shoot just with film, just for 1 year, to push his artistic expression, to learn better how to shoot digital. However, it also turns out to be the last time he ever really focused on digital. That 1 year project turned him into a passionate film photographer, and since then he has moved into designing stickers. The blog has built up into even better things. There's the famous film dating tool on there, which is worth checking out if you haven't done it before. And also he now has brought 2 films to market. So the first one we've already talked about in the Wonder Box is Street Candy ATM 400, and then the second one is now MTN 100. It came out earlier this year. Now, what's the difference and why are we excited about MTN 100? Well, of course, the first clue in the name, 400 versus 100. MTN is a 100 speed film, so it is less sensitive to light. It requires more light in order to bring out fantastic images, but that's not the only thing that is different. This film comes from traditional German cinema stock. So it has a cinematic feel. The contrast is reasonably strong. The grain is reasonably strong. And when I say reasonably strong on both of those, what I mean is that it will fall pretty much in the middle ground of where you expect films to be. So while some films are super contrasty, some films are super flat, this is likely to be fairly middling, which means that you can use it for a range of different subjects and different lighting situations. One subtlety, and this is very common when you read about cinema films, is that it has slightly different ISO ratings for daylight and for tungsten. So if you're shooting indoors with tungsten light, then you should technically rate it at ISO 80 to get the best results. Whereas outdoors in daylight, rated at ISO 100. And that immediately tells you something about the spectral range of the film. Even though it's panchromatic, it sees light across the entire spectrum. The fact that it is slightly less sensitive under tungsten light versus daylight tells you that it is more likely to be sensitive to the daylight range versus not. Now, that won't be a huge difference when you shoot it. You're not going to see some crazy effects like if you shoot with orthochromatic film, for example, that doesn't see any red at all. But it's just a subtlety about the film that if you shoot it indoors, you shoot it outdoors, you might notice that portraits start to look slightly differently as the film picks up different skin tones, different highlights and shadows, depending on the light source that's reflecting on. Now, one thing that is the same as the ATM is the cardboard canister. Now, this is something that Vincent pioneered. Since then, he has worked with folks like Ribsy on Ribsy's recent film to continue this work. But this is about using cardboard canisters instead of plastic. Now, the purpose here is not to overnight change analog photography into the greenest and most sustainable hobby. We know that there is a world of issues that as a community we can work on together to solve the fact that film photography, like every other hobby in existence, has an impact on the ecosystem, on the environment around us. But what Vincent has done that I think is quite clever is to attack things one at a time. Rather than worry about the entire picture, the entire piece, what Vincent said is, well, hang on a minute, one thing that we know happens is that a lot of films come in plastic canisters. Can I find a way to create a canister that is still hard wearing, that is very durable, that will survive being knocked, being poked, being crushed at the bottom of bags, but is made of something that is recycled and recyclable and isn't made with plastic? And of course, he's come up with this beautiful thing. The second thing I love about it, apart from its material, is the design. So this is the original ATM 400, but with the MTN 100, there's a new and beautiful graphic design. So there's the film swirls, there's the allusions to cinema with the megaphone, with the different types of reel. And also one of my favourite things is that the barcode at the back is actually in the shape of a 35mm, which I really love. So it's little things like that that really show Vincent's attention to detail and eye to detail, which carries through in everything that he does. The film itself is really lovely to shoot, so it's been out there for a few months now. Vincent tells me that actually he's worked out over 100,000 frames have been shot on MTN 100 already, which is absolutely mind-boggling and something that he is quite rightly very, very proud of. By the way, linked to that from an eco side of things, he also tells me that this use of canister and the fact that people are shooting this instead of traditional films has replaced enough plastic to make 7,200 rubber ducks. In fairness though, that's not a great analogy for me because I quite enjoy rubber ducks. I have a toddler who has a great collection of them, so when I hear saving rubber ducks, I actually don't have the same connotations as if it's, you know, plastic waste. I know it's all plastic, but even still. There we go. Lots of rubber ducks saved, over 100,000 photos shot. And what do people say about this film when they have shot those photos? Well, fortunately, they come back with the same things that Vincent tells us this film will have. They use comments like, it has a very pleasant contrast or middling contrast. They say it has a very fine grain that is noticeable but not overwhelming. So again, this will give you lovely, clean images, lovely, clean negatives that you can make great prints from, that you can scan really, really well, but it will still give you a lovely atmosphere. It will still give you that film aesthetic. The other thing to know about this film in particular, and this is for advanced home developers probably, is that you can also develop it in positive chemistry to get a black and white slide image. Now, black and white slides are less common or less well known than colour slide, Ektachrome, Velvia, that kind of film. People tend to know those ones more, but black and white slide is still incredible. Now, of course, you think back, where did this come from? It comes from cinema. Cinema needs projections. This isn't necessarily surprising that this emulsion could therefore be developed as a negative or as a positive for direct projection onto a wall to show a short movie, a short film. But it's still useful to know, so you can send it off to your lab as usual to get black and white negatives back, and then when you scan or print, they become inverted. Or if you fancy a challenge at home, you can buy the special positive chemistry and develop it as slides, and then as soon as you hold it up to the light, as soon as you project it, you will see the image in positive, i.e. as you expect. Lights are light, shadows are dark, and you're straight away. If you've ever seen a black and white slide, it is really, really beautiful. It's a gorgeous way of enjoying your photography. Of course, if you scan it, there's relatively less difference. It's the physical object that's really important there. But it is a wonderful thing. And it's lovely that this film does give you that flexibility. Now for me, I'm going to be shooting this film in the UK in autumn, so the light might be a bit variable. This film can be shot pushed, so you're not necessarily married to ISO 80 or ISO 100, but it will look better with a bit of light. So I'm hoping for those gorgeous autumnal days. I think using the fact that it has beautiful sharp detail, not overwhelming contrast or grain, I think will work well in sort of a woodland walk, picking out the textures of autumn, the leaves. They're changing colour. You won't be able to see the colour change, but you'll be able to see the shifting of the pattern. You'll be able to see the texture of the ground when you have those dry autumnal leaves piling up. You'll get more exposure of the foliage, which will be really lovely as well. So I think that's probably what I'm going to be shooting on. But as you'll see from the sample photos, as you've seen from Vincent himself, this can also be used for street. Portraits look really nice. So really, it's a wonderful, flexible film for you to enjoy lots of different things with. If you're a Wonderbox subscriber, then please let me know how you found the first Street Candy, and if there's anything different or the same that you're going to use from that experience in order to shoot this one. If you've shot this film before, drop your comments below, let folks know how you got on, how did you develop it, what did you think of it versus other films at a similar speed, and so that we can all continue to learn and develop and add this film into our shooting arsenal along with everything else. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.